Hey,
Good morning,
Lois.
Rabbi Karsh.
Good morning, David. Good morning, Lois.
Lois isn't quite here yet, but we.
Good morning, David.
I'll tell you,
And representing Lois.
We are totally incapable. We've realized we're 19th century people living in the 21st century. I don't understand how to do things. I try to open up a bank account. You have no idea what I had to go through and all the things that have to match and all of the numbers and numbers and numbers, and you want to make a wire transfer. And I just don't know. I don't know how to do these things. They want us to make photocopies of things and to send them and to email them. And I don't even know what they're talking about.
Hi, Rabbi. Rabbi.
Yes.
What was the baby's name?
Elisha. Elisha. Elisha.
Elisha. Huh. Okay.
Oh.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Mazel tov again.
Mazel tov. They did not anticipate the problem that name is going to cause. But now, once they named him, immediately they didn't find out that this child is going to have some issues growing up. Because, first of all, Elisha in America, Elisha is a woman's name. And the way Christians pronounce Elisha is Elisha. Just like Elijah. So even he'll figure it out.
Eli. Why not Eli?
He could have Eli. He could have Leash. Rabbi Prero in Chicago, his nickname was Leash Prero. Huh. And I'm sure the Navi Elisha had to work it out. It might be one of the contributing factors for Elisha Ben Avuya going off the derech. We don't know, but he'll figure it out. I think he'll figure it out. It is a beautiful name, and it is a unique name in our family. So,
nice.
it. And he's a cute little whippersnapper.
Yeah, we had a friend. He named his daughter Antigone.
Yes.
Remember, and his son had some other equally.
Yeah, Dick Stoken. He named his daughter.
There are these brothers in football. They're one of them is his first name is Amon Ra, and his brother played for the Packers, and Amon Ra plays for Detroit. Let's see, Amon Ra, Detroit. Amon Ra St. Brown, and his brother is Equanimous. Equanimous St. Brown. Equanimous played for the Packers, and he went to he might still be on the Bears. He went to the Bears, and they have one other brother named Osiris St. Brown.
Ooh.
But Amon Ra and Equanimous, they are.
Were they Egyptians or Zoroastrians, or what are they?
The St. Brown family. The parents are Miriam Steyer and John Brown. And they get an about here. I'm going to just see about John Brown. The father of Equanimous and Amon Ra. John Brown himself was a football player. So, and there's an interview with him. Everything you want to know about the parents. Detroit Lions, Amon Ra St. Brown. Equanimous Amon Ra. No discussion about it. But I'm sure there's been lots of discussion about it. I just don't know. Anyways, those are amongst but that's sort of like a boy named Sue when you give your kids that name. last time when we were talking about this mitzvah to listen to a prophet, a navi, I was mentioning that this is one of those places where you're really being challenged by God to show faith. Why do I keep on going back to this? Sorry. You have these two areas that for many people represent a really kind of challenge of trust, and they are the faith in the Navi and faith in the rabbis. You, as much as you want to, sometimes you find it difficult, especially when you think you know better than these people, or when it looks like they are obviously wrong, and yet you are being asked to sublimate your sense of what is right and wrong and follow what they did. There are some dramatic cases in the Gemara, like the case of Rabbi Yoshua, who had to humble himself and show up on a date which he had concluded was most likely Yom Kippur. He had to show up in weekday attire in order to indicate that he wasn't celebrating Yom Kippur on that date. And if you look at the context, he is correct that I mean, the date that Rabbi Gamliel was suggesting Yom Kippur was on, based on witnesses, it was almost impossible that he was right. And yet he chose to declare that what happened was witnesses came and said they saw the new moon. Then the next night, nobody else saw it because it was cloudy and they were the only ones who saw it. The next night, there was no moon. It can't be that there's no moon after a new moon, which meant that they were wrong. But Rabbi Gamliel had some way of working it out that they might still be right, and he didn't want to change the decision of when Rosh Chodesh was, because perhaps, this is the speculation of several of the commentaries, that it would weaken the position of the Sanhedrin. If the Sanhedrin was seen to make a declaration and then go back on it, it doesn't look good for the Sanhedrin. And there's indication in several other Gemaras that it was part of his, he saw as part of his agenda was the strengthening of the position of the Sanhedrin. So he didn't want to go back on it, but it was, and Rabbi Yoshua was the one sort of standing on the other side, vociferously arguing that he needs to change back. And so the decision was he's not. And he insisted that Rabbi Yoshua show up and humble himself before him. And Rabbi Yoshua did it. Even though he believed that all the evidence showed that Yom Kippur was on the day, that he believed it was Yom Kippur, he showed up on that day in weekday attire, and it appears that he treated it like a weekday. Even though this is a Kares level penalty, and it's a very serious issue, and he believed that all the decision maker was wrong, but he had to show. So that's a very extreme example of this notion, but there are times, and we all have it, where we see a decision that's made by a rabbinical figure of authority, and we decide that we have to follow that opinion, or we're being told that we have to follow that opinion. So you can imagine a similar thing happening with the Navi. Now, if you as a Navi think the other person is a false prophet, then you're not allowed to follow that Navi. But you'd have to have reasoning to believe that this person was a false prophet. There are times like there's a prophet named Michayahu who was called to prophesy before Ahab, Achav, and Yehoshaphat. And there were 400 other prophets prophesying in front of Achav. Even Yehoshaphat recognized that these are not serious prophets. He asked for another prophet, and then he brought Michayahu. And Achav said about him, like, I'm going to bring him, but he never says anything good about me. So clearly Michayahu is not listening to the other prophets. Also, you have Yirmiyahu. Yirmiyahu at times was prophesying in the face of other people claiming to be prophets. So the prophet himself, I guess, can tell if other people are false prophets. But we would need like hard evidence that somebody was a false prophet in order to not listen to them. Anyways, this is one of those things. Okay. Now we're at Mitzvah 173. That is, that he commanded us to appoint a king upon us, that he gather all of our nation and lead us, and that is his, may he be blessed, saying, you surely may set a king over you. And the language of the Sifrei already preceded us. 3 commandments were commanded to Israel upon their entrance to the land: to appoint a king over them, to build the temple, and to cut off the seed of Amalek. Now, if you'll notice right away, the way the Rambam chose to present this, the way, and it actually says, Som tasim alecha melech, in the verse, you shall surely place upon you a king. This translate has translated, you surely may set a king over you. Now, he has a reason for translating it this way, but it is not the actual translation of the verse. The verse, Som tasim alecha, should be translated as, you shall surely set a king over you. The commentaries say that this is not a command that you must do it, but that you may do it, and he's inserting that into his translation. But the actual language, Som tasim, you shall place, or you shall surely place a king over you.
So how did Mephoshim come up with this other?
Well, first of all, they don't do it for 400 years or close to 500 years. And when they ask for a king, they get rebuked. So the question is, why are they being rebuked for asking for a king? Isn't it a mitzvah? And shouldn't they have already had a king? So that's where the conversation happens. And then you go back to this language. Now, the Rambam's counting it as a mitzvah. He's going to have to deal with this. So they have, you shall surely. So, but he's already anticipating it in his translation. This is Francis Nataf. You surely may set a king over you. And the language of, because that doesn't sound like a mitzvah. You may set a king over you. That's not a mitzvah language. And the language of the Sifrei already preceded us. 3 commandments were commanded to Israel upon their entrance to the land: to appoint a king over them, to build a temple, and to cut off the seed of Amalek. And the further language of the Sifrei is, you surely may set, again, he's doing that, you surely may set a king over you, that his awe be over you. And likewise, that we place in our hearts about him the utmost honor, glory, praise, and status of the highest magnitude, which has nothing above it, until his level for us is greater than the level for one of the prophets that will be in his generation. Right? So in other words, the honor you must show him is greater than anybody else. There's none, even a prophet. There's none who are meant to be shown greater honor than the king. Anytime that the commandment of the king does not contradict the commandment of the Torah, we are surely obligated to listen to his commandment. One who transgresses his commandment and does not listen to him is surely fit, and it is permissible for the king to kill him as he wishes. And as Israel said about themselves, any man who flouts your commands. Now that's talking to Joshua. And anyone who rebels against the monarchy can have his blood avenged by a king who is established according to the Torah. The regulation of this commandment have already been explained in Sanhedrin and in chapter 1 of Croesus of Sota. But you see, he doesn't even go into it here. This issue of how is it that they didn't set, usually anticipates these, like he did with the previous one. What if a Navi tells you to do something contrary to the Torah? He usually anticipates the most obvious question, and this is the most obvious question, which is, here, let's just see what he, all right, so this is from the Mishnah Torah. Again, this is just the English. Israel is commanded to fulfill 3 mitzvahs upon entering the promised land: to choose a king, appoint a king over yourselves. See, this is not Francis Nattaf's translation. To wipe out the descendants of Amalek, and to build a house of God. The appointment of a king should precede the war against Amalek. This is evident from Shmuel's charge to King Saul: God sent me to anoint you as king. Now go and smite Amalek. Amalek's seed should be annihilated before the construction of the temple. We did talk about the fact that according to many opinions, right now we are fulfilling the mitzvah of wiping out Amalek. Did we talk about that? By wiping out Hamas?
No, we did not.
We did not. So I was talking about this with a couple months ago. I was having a discussion with my son Sruli about he was saying that the mitzvah to wipe out Amalek just doesn't seem right, doesn't seem correct, especially because we're going to be asked to kill man, women, and child. And, you know, he envisioned it that one day somebody's just going to point to a people and then we're going to be told, okay, those are Amalek, go kill them. And then we're just going to have to go in and just shoot them where they stand, which is an unsettling idea for many people. So my counter argument was, why does this bother you anything more than any war? Why does it bother? In wars, innocent people are always killed in war, whatever the war is. Even if you think the war is just, like the bombing Afghanistan or bombing Iraq. I think in Iraq they said at least 100,000 innocent civilians were killed in the bombings of Iraq, and who knows how many in Afghanistan. And you had the Dresden, and you have Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and all these kinds of things. You just have over and over and over. You in every war you have stories of the killing of innocent people. So why does the battle of them? Why does the fact that you have to totally wipe them out? Why does that bother you more? Anyways, we're going back and forth on it. It was at a Chulin Schmooze. It got very raucous as we're yelling back and forth at each other, as Swilly and I often do. And then it spilled into a Kiddush discussion. Anyways, and then at the Kiddush discussion, somebody suggested that I read the Bhagavad Gita, because the Bhagavad Gita seems to be about this subject, which is, somebody wondering, he is a warrior, and he's wondering why, what the point of the war is, who wants to live in a world, even if he's successful and he kills the enemy, and he's on the side of good against bad, but he's going to be killing relatives, he's going to be killing people, teachers, he's going to be killing other people and who wants to live in a world after such a thing. He's just questioning the place of war and his job as a warrior. And then in the Bhagavad Gita, God happens to respond to him, and they have this whole conversation about war, and a lot of those questions come up, the killing of other people and why could be right or wrong. So then, so this conversation was like very fresh in my mind when the October 7th happened, and we are starting with the declaration to wipe out Hamas entirely, to wipe them out entirely. And it struck me because I remembered that the Soloveitchik family held that if you have people that declare, that they will destroy the Jewish people, that is an indication that they're a Molech. And that does seem to be Hamas's charter, to at least wipe out the Jewish people that are in Israel. And so that would make them a Molech. And I was talking about this with Mordechai Becher last week, and he sent me two other indications that Yishmael could have strains of Amalek in them. Even though Amalek is from Esav, it's not from Yishmael. So here. Where was I? Becher. Right. So one is Pirkei de Rebbe Eliezer. So that's, it's considered early Midrash. There are some people who argue it might be the very earliest oral law that we have, oral writing that we have, Pirkei de Rebbe Eliezer. It might precede Mishnah, but I don't know if it really does, but it might. Anyway, so it says, this is Pirkei de Rebbe Eliezer, 43, chapter 43. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Kishabas Sancherev la'aretz, Ra'u kol ha'amim shesvivos Eretz Yisrael machane. So when Sancherev came to the land, the nations around Israel saw the camp of Sancherev, and they became afraid, very afraid, and they ran to different places, as it says, Ba'asir Gdulos Amim, etc. Va'amalek nichnas lemidbar. Amalek entered the desert, v'nisarvu im bnei Yishmael, and they mixed amongst the sons of Yishmael. And they were 10 nations. Shenemar Ohale Edom v'Yishmaelim Moav v'Hagrim Gvul v'Amon v'Amalek Pleshes in Yoshvei Tzor Gam Ashur Nilva Imoim, etc. So the Kulam Asidim Limpol Biad ben David, and all of them in the future will fall at the hands of the son of David, Ke'esh Lahava Shenema. So that is one text that suggests that Amalek mixed in amongst the Bnei Yishmael. And then there is a Zohar. Now, again, these are not literal texts. These are Pirkei de Rebbe Eliezer, Midrash, and now I'm quoting from Zohar. So these are not literal, but they just support this notion of the possibility that Hamas could have the status of Amalek. Zohar Raya Mihimna Chelik Beis, etc. De Ihu Aryeh Mashiach ben David, De Itmar Be Gur Aryeh Yehuda Mitrav Bnei Alit B'Yetzakum Alamin Da Alma Korosh Chavalay Mitrav Lon Mi Kimenu Bahu Zimna Nachse man hu ela achra diyakilam litrof alayis this all Aramaic. Yisrael dahavu kiyona nirdafin kadam nesher misitra da ofin de umi da alma. Buzim na yitar nesher v'isparish kadvaya al rube de umnin ve'esav v'yishmael de inun amalekin. And Esav and Yishmael, who are Amalek, it says, Ve'erbuvia bisha de Yisrael, a mixture of the bad of Israel, the Toriflon, Delo Yishar Chad Minaihun. There will not be one of them left. So there also, there's some kind of reference to even to the possibility that Ishmael has Esav in them. This doesn't mean all of Ishmael, but like that sort of this is the Reb Chaim holds that the Rambam holds this, that if a nation declares that they are they want to destroy the Jewish people, this could help to explain Haman, like why they assume Haman is Amalek. Again, they say Haman comes from Agag, etc. They have some tradition about that. But it may not require more than the fact that he declared that he wants the destruction of the entire Jewish people. If somebody declares they want the destruction of the Jewish people, or let's say the destruction of the Jewish people in Israel, if somebody says they want the destruction of Jewish people, that in itself is enough to decide that they're Amalek. Now, if that's, I'm not poskening, I'm just saying it's possible. It's possible, especially when you hear the Israelis saying we're going to wipe out every one of them. That is the language you use about Amalek, and it's possible they are fulfilling the mitzvah of wiping out Amalek by killing them. If this is in fact true, that by making that declaration, you signal that you are Amalek, and there is a possibility that there is Amalek amongst Yishmael, and they're declaring that they want the destruction of Jewish people. That would indicate they are Amalek. So by killing them, and by stating your goal that you want to wipe them out, you'd be at least in the midst of the mitzvah of wiping out Amalek.
When we say, biblically that we have to wipe out Amalek, that seems to be, we're supposed to wipe out a race of people, the very root of it. But here we seem to be identifying that someone is Amalek if they have a certain agenda. They have, but it's not the same. It's because of an intellectual conviction that they had. If they didn't have that intellectual conviction,
it may not be an intellectual conviction. You'd have to say, in order to support this notion, they can't help it because they are Amalek. Or is it? It is the.
So it is
from the very fact that they're Amalek that they want to do it. So it emerges from the very fact that they're Amalek. So, but nowadays, how would you know who's Amalek?
Well, yeah, that's the other thing.
So in this case, I guess for me, what was sort of remarkable to me about this is that we were having a theoretical discussion, my son and I, and then it's possible that you're actually engaged in this thing right now. But how does it come about? It doesn't come about like you imagined. It doesn't come about that somebody's just pointing to a race of people and saying, all right, go in and kill them. You find yourself in the midst of the battle. And now that you know that you're in the midst of a battle with Amalek, you have to wipe them out entirely. Let's say you're trying to decide, what should I do here? I haven't heard any Rabbanim jump in here, and I'm not jumping in there. I mean, I wouldn't, I wouldn't do it anyways. I'm just saying, I'm not saying what they should do, but in theory, if you're looking at this situation and now you recognize that this could very well be Amalek, that you're battling, you have no choice but to fulfill, the Torah's mandate is you have to wipe every single one of them out. That you don't have a choice here. That's when the mitzvah would kick in. In other words, if you're asking yourself, like, okay, they're in the middle of a battle. Maybe there's a Amalek, maybe it isn't. So now somebody would say, no, now that they've shown themselves to be a Amalek and you're in the midst of fighting them, you must wipe them out, every single one of them. You can't not wipe them out. Which you hear the Israelis saying anyways. I mean, they're sort of saying this is an existential thing. This happened, when years ago, Netanyahu referred to Iran as a Amalek, and there was a columnist, I don't know if it was Roger, it was some columnist for the New York Times who was trying to translate for Gentiles. He said, when an Israeli prime minister calls somebody a Amalek, he's signaling to you that this is not going to end in peace negotiations. He's signaling to you that this is an existential battle for survival, and it's not going to end until only one is standing. That kind of a thing. So you could say that this language that, again, I'm not committed to it has to be this way. I'm just saying it's possible that what we're engaged in right now is a fulfillment of the mitzvah of wiping out a Amalek. It's possible. It's not unlikely.
Yeah.
It's not unlikely.
That
I don't know.
and how far does it extend to every one of them? We don't know which.
Yeah, but the thing is, the Torah only told us to do about the Amalekites, and they were a definite race at that time. And then to project it and to make those sorts of identifications.
I'm saying this is not me saying it.
Right.
No, I understand.
I'm saying there. This is so you. All right, you could say you could. That I hear what you're saying, but this is a developed idea that existed for some time, before now, and was considered an important opinion. I haven't heard any rabbi. You don't hear, people saying this, calling out that this is a battle for Amalek and we must destroy everyone. I haven't heard anybody say that. It could be if Rabbi Ovadia Yosef or somebody like that was alive, because he had a tendency to say things, But and maybe there are some rabbis saying it in their shuls, especially some Sephardic rabbis. It's possible that there are saying it, but I haven't heard anybody quoting anybody saying this. But this, if you don't have to put a lot of pieces together for this to be the case, and especially the rhetoric, because the rhetoric from Israel is, we can't let one of them stand. It's just, even as a work of art, forget about a legal argument. I'm just saying, as a work of art, you could see the pieces are there, the elements are there. People are saying this out loud. You can't let one of them survive. We have to get every single one. That's the language that is used about Amalek. And it's being said about this group. And
Rabbi,
you have this group declaring that they want to destroy the Jewish people. And you have the opinion that if somebody says that makes them Amalek. So at least as a work of art.
Yes, but how much do we or some want to attribute killing to a mitzvah of this?
Well,
and is, you know what I mean? It would be like they have in the Quran, they should wipe out every Jew. Do we want it to be attached
first of all, they don't
to
have that
mitzvah? I hope not, but okay. They seem to, but it's
I know they may quote, they don't have them. But I'm saying, but we do have this mitzvah. We've been troubled by this mitzvah. Right. And I'm saying, my son was expressing what troubles a lot of people about this mitzvah. And to me, this is the thing that's most fascinating to me in the moment. Right. That this is something we're troubled by, and we may actually be doing it. this is the thing, that we may be doing it right now. And also, you could say, the other element of it is, you could say that all along what it's meant to happen is that when we may find that now what's happening is we're being told, don't let up. This is maybe, you could see somebody being said, this is why we have been carrying this with us for thousands of years, is so that in this moment we don't let up, that we don't stop until we've done it.
In this case, how do we know when we've done it? Because if we wipe out some, others become Hamas. You know what I mean? So they become Amalek, and it goes on and on.
Right.
And
I don't know. And maybe that's also, maybe you could see somebody, again, as a work of art, as opposed to a work of legal argument. But you could say that in a not killing a Gog, that notion that you can't, that you don't. So is there going to be that moment where we realize we could have done it and then we don't do it?
Yeah. Do you feel this is related to or so different than if someone comes to kill you, you kill them? Is that a mitzvah or is that allowed? Or what is?
No, that's a mitzvah. That's a mitzvah. That I think we're going to see it as a mitzvah. I don't know. Haba lahargacha, come lahargo.
Yeah.
If somebody comes to kill you, rise to, and I mean, you're supposed to guard your life. It says in the Torah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we're going to say. That was that issue with Rabbi Akiva. That argument about what to do with the water.
Yeah, sure.
There. Yeah. So the question is, are you allowed to not drink the water, or must you drink that water? That's part of it too. Yeah, I know. This is that kind of stuff. But anyways, it's possible. Just throwing it out that we might possibly be living this mitzvah.
Well, just as a thing, didn't Akiva said he's v'chai b'chem? Isn't that what he quoted?
V'chai b'chem, right? Yeah. So v'chai
that,
b'chem might be connected to that too. That you must live with them.
Yeah, but that's a positive mitzvah.
To live
right.
with them.
I know.
Right.
The question is killing the other guy a fulfillment of it? I'm in other words, is it
right?
If somebody's trying to kill you, is killing him? It sounds like it would be related to B'chai B'hem, but I don't know.
Right. Rabbi, on the other end, I read or something. So the Rambam says you shouldn't overpay or extremely pay for a hostage because it encourages more.
Right, not just him. Many people, many have said it. Yeah.
So are we doing that? Oh God!
People wondered about Gilad Shalit.
Yes, 1,000.
I know. People wondered about it over there. It's very iffy to figure it out. There were different times, like with the Rush's father-in-law, the Maram from Rottenburg. So he was taken captive. He wouldn't let them
redeem him.
But they did redeem him after he died. They redeemed his body. Now, maybe it wasn't too much. I don't know.
Right. Oh my God. Oh, Rabbi, what a horrible.
But is there a consensus though, as to whether is really the policy?
I don't know because. Right, not to negotiate, because you're allowed to redeem him. You're just not allowed to redeem him for too much. Right. So how do you figure that out, and what is and what isn't? The Gilad Shalit one, I mean, that's a very hard one because it really does look like they gave back a ton of terrorists somehow.
Right.
Yeah, but Jewish law in general does not take that much consideration into numbers, whether you're saving one or saving 1,000.
I know. So then what do you call too much? What do you call some kind of judgment? Yeah.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay,
Tomorrow.
all right. Be well, guys.
Oh,
Oh.
but this is just a stupid question.
Oh,
But I was
I-
thinking,
yeah.
like we were talking about doing some sort of doing. When I say, if I wanted to say right now, I am now sinning, how would I say that in Hebrew?
I am now what?
Sinning, or we are now sinning.
did you say that?
What if I
Sinning?
What if I want? What would be the Hebrew?
Ani choteh. Anachnu choteim.
Okay, but katanu is, so that's the past,
Chatanu is past, yeah.
and okay, and the present is
Choteim, I would say. Anachnu choteim. Poshim.
okay.
Anachnu choteim, poshim. Something like that.
I was trying with some sort of idea of a tenseless sort of
Right.
thing that, you
Yeah,
know,
well, I would have to refer to a linguist because I'm not. That's not my expertise. But Chatanu is past. That's for sure, past. And something like Chotein, you would have to say. All righty.
Rabbi, one more thing, sorry. It's related to the beginning. This ambiguity about appointing a king or not, ever since I've read Shmuel and King, I always thought that it was, the story of David is a polemic, a political polemic. And I don't know if that tells us we should have one or should, I mean, that's as ambiguously the other. Anyway, tomorrow.
All right, because you'll see, even here in the Rambam on the side here, he says, since it's a mitzvah to appoint a king, why was God displeased with the people's request to make a king from Shmuel?
Yes.
All right,
yes.
so we'll look at that. We'll look
Thank
at
you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.